It is 6 o'clock.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if you called on me, Shay, but I can't hear anybody. The sound has gone out.
Can anybody else online hear us?
Oh, now I can hear you. Okay.
Now I can hear you.
Can hear you now, yes.
Okay, great. Yes, I called on you to vote to approve the minutes.
I approve.
Melissa? Aye. Aye, it is unanimous. Visitor comments, is there anybody here for anything that is not currently on the agenda? Okay, excellent. Ferry service update. I think we'll just do the ferry service update and the emergency ferry task force together. I know that Peter Wilcox, I don't think is able to be here tonight. So there was the public hearing on, last week, the 29th now, where the commission, it was very well attended from lots of islands. There was good comments, both in person, online, and electronically. The commissioner provided a new white paper, making lots of sweeping suggestions. Which I think was a bit of a surprise to the transportation committee. I know that Gabe has written a kind of response to that white paper that was very well done. I think it has been circulated to this board.
I haven't
seen it yet.
Okay,
What if he sent it to?
he must have sent it to the emergency ferry task force. Would you be willing to forward that? He sent it to the transportation committee under his name. But I think it covers all of the points basically that we would want covered, and I have heard that the transportation committee was, I think he's heard some good feedback about that. The next step is a public hearing, which my understanding is likely to be next week, but a date and time has not been set yet.
And when did that go out to the,
To the transportation committee.
and more importantly, well, external to us, to the island committee?
I was not copied on the email where he sent to the transportation
go.
committee, but I did,
Okay.
I was texting with him today and he said it has been sent and that he has heard feedback
Good,
back,
okay.
so. That is great, and I know that Genevieve was in touch with him about who it should go to and all of that. And I will let you know as soon as we have here when the date will be for the public hearing.
And is the public hearing with the transportation committee?
Yeah, so this is an opportunity basically for the transportation committee to discuss the information that was shared at the public hearing. So there, in some cases in the public hearing, the committee asked questions or for more information be brought forward for the public hearing. Generally, the public is not invited to comment. You know, this is really a time, as I understand it, for the transportation committee to discuss the information ahead of them and then ultimately to make a recommendation about what the future of each of the different bills should be. Scott, I see your hand raised.
Yeah, thank you, Shay. I know that we had discussed having, at the meeting last week, we had discussed in addition to Gabe responding to the Transportation Committee, also having some critical points that were going to be distributed so individuals could themselves respond to the Transportation Committee. I have not seen anything. I haven't seen Gabe's email to the Transportation Committee or any of those points. Is that something that is going to be distributed?
I have not seen kind of that distilled into bullet points either, so I am happy to work with Gabe to try to get something out hopefully tomorrow.
Okay, I know everybody's really busy. Obviously, we want to stay on top of this, so not trying to create more work, but I definitely want to send my own comments back as well to the committee.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Any other questions? All right. Hearing none, sea level rise update. Our meeting was rescheduled until May 22nd because of the school spring concert tomorrow. I don't have any other further updates. Any questions on sea level rise? Okay, Scott, is your hand still raised, or is that something new, or is that residual?
Sorry, I didn't take my hand down.
Okay.
Lower.
All right, municipal building project, Lauren.
Yes, things are continuing to move along. The cabinets, interior doors, flooring have been installed. Painting is complete or nearing completion. I'm not there in terms of the exterior, but I think things are really moving along. It's expected that the building will be move-in ready by early May. The official ribbon cutting and tour will be held on Saturday, June 14th. And then there'll be an additional tour scheduled for Saturday, July 12th. I'll let Steve talk about the Upper Island Public Safety Garage. The renovation effort is ongoing. L&M Design LLC, a design firm on Islesboro, is preparing a design for the space, and that's been gone over pretty thoroughly with Mert and Fred. Cleaning and painting will be coordinated, and the town will be undertaking that effort. It's all really moving forward. It's very exciting. I'm looking forward to being back on Islesboro Saturday and getting an on-site visit to the building. That's it.
Any questions for Lauren? Any additional updates? Steve?
We're working on from the Up Island building perspective. We've got a couple different contracts that we're looking at to merge together. North Point did send us a draft that needs to be incorporated into what we want to use. Stephen Blatt is forwarding final drawings to them so that he can finalize costs. They've been a little busy the last couple of weeks, according to Mark. So there was kind of a slowdown. But I kind of added some pressure this week because we really want to, nothing good happens from delaying the contract. So I'm trying to get the contract put together. There was a reduction. There's, minor things like because of certain things, there's a reduction of cement that's required, which is good because I guess the cost of bringing cement over is, it's pretty expensive, but that's offset by some other things. So the bottom line is we should have by the next meeting, final numbers from them. We need to produce that contract. There's a requirement to how they want North Point wants to be paid, and I want to make sure that we take that whole list of deliverables, that's 2 columns worth, that we take those and align those with our payment structure so that we're paying on deliverables, not just every 2 weeks we give a check over. I mean, there needs to be an alignment with what they are going to produce and what we'll pay for. So that part is not started yet until we get final numbers. So we're not quite as close as I'd like to be. But there's no impediment on moving it forward other than developing contract information.
Great.
That's it.
Scott, I see your hand raised.
Yes, I raised my hand again. Hey, Steve, did they ever get, I know you just said you're waiting final numbers. Did they ever come back to us with the modified numbers, eliminating the heat pumps and just doing the standard boiler for the radiant in-floor heat? Was that ever done?
Well, they did come back with general numbers, but we don't have the final design drawings yet, so. To answer your question, yes, they did, but nothing's finalized because has been some, because of that. Those changes, there had to be architectural changes to that, there was costs associated with that which we covered, or are being covered, but we don't have final numbers, so. But we're not concerned that it's gonna be going over the
The
what
fourth,
we've been
the 430, the
what we've been
430,
discussing, yeah, so I
the
don't see,
435, yeah. Sorry, I got a big echo here on this side. I don't know if you guys have the same.
no,
No,
Okay. No, so you're not concerned about going over the 435?
well, we are gonna be over the 435, but as I indicated. The last meeting before, we did have some additional. Donations that gave us some elasticity in that cost. So. That's why I said we're not concerned about. The final number because the indications are well within around that 432, 33 number.
Okay, thank you. I just was curious to know when you would see the final numbers. And do we know, last question, do we know, are we proceeding with the dual heat systems or did you guys decide as a select board to go forward with the recommendation of various parties that will be using the building relative to the traditional boiler versus heat pumps? Or are they doing both? Or are they doing one or the other? Has that been decided?
Yeah, no, that was, Scott, that was agreed to over a month ago that I presented that would be in the notes and the minutes. We listened to the concerns that were brought to us regarding the heat pump versus floor radiant heat. And we made that change. So there are not going to be heat pumps. There are two ceiling, let's call them heaters that, can circulate and add extensive amount of heat quickly. But we
Right.
moved to the in the floor radiant heat. That was some of the reasons why we're still waiting for the final numbers because all that changed the drawings.
Right. And I just was curious to know if because I thought I didn't know that had been confirmed. I know we had discussed that in prior meetings, so that's good to hear. So, okay, great. No, thank you for the update, Steve, and apologies for being delinquent in any
If
question.
you go back maybe 4 or 5 meetings ago, you'll see I have a presentation on that that's clearly defined in that presentation, and that'll give you the information that you asked for.
Yeah, I actually think I was at that meeting. So, because I do remember the discussion. I just wasn't sure that it was agreed to. So, okay, fantastic. Thank you, Steve.
any additional questions for Steve?
Lauren, can I go back to Lauren real quick?
Mhm.
Lauren, you said, the, health center will be moving ready by early May. Did you mean early June? Just to clarify.
Yes, the understanding I have is that it should be, there's a distinction between will the building be done and will it be ready to be opened? Ready to be opened really has to do with, has all the furniture and supplies for the health center in, and is everything ready for operations? So there's, in terms of the building being completed, that should happen in early May. I'm sorry, end of May. The building should be ready to be opened later than that, probably 2 weeks later than that.
Okay, all right, so the move-in ready day is theoretically late May.
Let me, and there'll be a formal opening June 14th. That will
Right.
give them adequate time to make sure things are settled in, and that's the advice of the builder, the on-site supervisor, Pete McPherson, who says he's done this for 45 years. And you can put a date in there anytime you want, but the reality is after everybody moves everything in, you still need 2 weeks to get everything settled in, ready to go.
Right, no, I was just confirming the dates from the very beginning of this, because it sounded a little confusing, that's all. Thank you.
Any other questions? All right, upcoming meetings and subcommittee reports. We've got planning board meeting May 12th. And town meeting May 17th. Does anybody have additional subcommittee report outs that they wanted to give? All right, is there any prep, Janet, I guess ahead of town meeting, are you preparing? Remarks? I mean, I feel like it would be helpful to just kind of give a big picture summary of the increase in budget. Is that something that Kristen Collins going to be in attendance or available via phone
I can
Just-
ask her.
in case?
Difference of a 2.5 hour meeting or an 8.
I don't envision another.
No, but we
You
should
know.
plan, it would be good to learn from past and plan to make sure that it is not repeated.
Do we typically, once you've developed, the vision statements, are we gonna need to go through that as a board prior to that, so we're all kind of in line? You wanna practice as well, one practice or anything?
I'm happy to send bullet points of what I was gonna cover, but we haven't necessarily done a kind of practice of it in the past, but I'm certainly happy to send kind of the bullet points. I think a lot of it is, the discussion points that we've had during the budget development process, but if, I would certainly welcome feedback for what I send around.
Yeah.
Any other questions on town meeting?
Where did we land with working out, childcare?
The last I knew, I think it was it Laura Reed? Someone said they would take care of it. So I guess I should follow up with her.
Yeah, it'd be good if that was advertised.
And the kid, what class is gonna do? The junior class, are they gonna do the food? Oh, you don't know, you're not down there, sorry.
Yes, the junior
The
class.
junior class, okay, that's what we talked about, they were gonna do a breakfast.
Yeah.
And, yes, I will. Childcare. It's permit, and we're gonna pay them, we have money, and basically nicely donated the money last year, so we'll make sure they know they're gonna get paid. Bring them in.
Anything else on town meeting? Scott, I see your hand raised. Are you?
Yeah, I'm not sure if it's town meeting related or not, Shay, but and I don't know if you've to the kind of open forum, open question period yet. If you're not, I'll wait until then.
It's already come and gone, so go ahead.
Oh, okay. I don't know if anybody, sorry, I was distracted. I don't know if anyone has, I'm sure you have seen all of the activity at Grindle Point. And obviously, the owner of Grindle Point, to my belief or understanding, is that it's being prepared to be put on the market. Have there been any further discussions about that, about the possibility of the town either acquiring it, or I know it's expensive. I know he's looking for a lot of money. It's just a shame that we couldn't, and maybe it's a separate discussion altogether, but it's a shame that the town couldn't own that point and turn it into a park, with parking. So I don't know if there's been any further thought about that, or if that's a town meeting potential discussion, or if it's better shelved and because we probably will see the for sale signs going up any day now.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that there's some additional research that has been done, but there is not any kind of formal proposal at this point about how to move forward. And since we don't have a fiscal note in the town meeting budget, I don't think, I'm not anticipating it being a major discussion item at the town meeting, where primarily we're there to discuss and vote on the
budget.
on the articles that are included in the town report. But it does remain an issue that is something that we're going to need to definitely be aware of and thinking about for the future. But I don't think it's something that we're gonna be, raising hundreds of thousands of dollars in this town meeting to enter any kind of purchase agreement.
Yeah, I wouldn't think so. I just didn't, what would you suggest the procedure should be, or the next step should be? I mean, if the for sale signs go up, I mean, has anybody pursued with Watts, like a ROFR, right to first refusal, or anything like that from the town perspective? Is that something that we could even consider doing? I just hate to see that property sold and lose the opportunity to have a, beautiful welcome to the island and solve the parking problems.
Yeah, I mean, he has approached us before putting it on the market. And it was a price tag that did not seem, like we would be able to fund at this time. I think, we do have the Grindle Parking Committee that I think is really, I mean, having a town committee that is put together to address this issue is, in an ideal world, the group that should be working on this rather than forming a separate committee to address this work.
Yep.
But I know that there has been some additional research and conversations too, to understand kind of historically conversations with other parties in the neighborhood.
Yeah, I know it goes way, way back. I talked to Earl McKenzie, and it goes way back to when he was, I think, select chair as well. So, okay. Well, maybe Shay, we can take it offline, but maybe you could just supply me with the parking committee members. Maybe I'll reach out to them and see what they think of the idea and how we can move forward.
Yep,
Okay.
happy to.
Thank you.
Yep. Any other,
Thanks, Linda.
anything else on, I think we're still on upcoming meetings and subcommittee reports.
I would like just to add to, I'm going to talk to Taylor Watts probably Monday. He emailed me because, about the fireworks. And I just talked with Ruth Bacon about, she wanted to increase the size of the fireworks. I said, gee, I better email him for permission, because I always do. This is really early. Usually I do it like June 30th. And so I'm glad I did, because he emailed back and said, we need to talk. So I don't know if he's gonna, I don't know what he's gonna say. But I was gonna talk with Mert about it tomorrow, fireworks, Taylor Watts. So.
Okay. All right, should we move right into town manager's report?
All right. I've given you the emergency ferry task force meeting minutes from April 24th. Bar Harbor Wealth sub-accounting report for April. Handed you out, the draft of the also looking ahead, that Steve's going to go over. And, East Shore Drive is finished, knock on wood, 99.9% finished. Hope you all get to ride by and look at it.
It looks really nice.
Good, right over there. And now you can walk down if you wanted to, there's a little pathway and flat stone sort of around that big culvert, so it's, if you had to get down there, you could get down there. And as you all know, the town reports just arrived yesterday, so, they're all boxed up and ready to go to the post office tomorrow. And Tina, they're already on the website. Tina's posted the warrant and then separately the town report, so. We're ahead of the game, except Bob Acorn was not happy today. He wanted them a week ago. So. That's my report.
Questions for Janet? All right, no additional correspondence. All right, Steve, would you like to discuss Alpha looking ahead?
Sure. So what was sent out, the draft, was really what was presented, from what I understand, last year. 7 pages. And I read that, and it's very comprehensive, and it provides a good overview of both looking back and getting context to what's been done, and then, looking forward to, what we need to be focused on. Or what the community thinks we should be focused on. So you know, I took a little different path on this, and there was also one that, Lauren had presented to me that I believe Linda, who was just here, had put something together, also more focused on, the two major municipal projects of the health center and Up Island safety. Something's going on there, just so you know.
Thanks.
So I started to, you know, I spent time looking, I read all this, and then I thought, you know, if this is really about looking forward, what we as a community want to be, I'm not sure we should be putting no context. Yeah, I mean, maybe we come up with, you know, a year in review type document, and I sent a request for that type of information out to all the committee heads the other week and got a pretty good response back. So that we could show all of the good things that these committees had produced for the community over the last year or 2 years. But, you know, should this, so my question is, and that's why I wanted to have a discussion around this, should the looking forward document really be about, you know, looking forward? What are the most pressing, most high priority items, not 7 or 8, but, you know, maybe 3 to 5 max, that we as a community wanted to look at. So, and I apologize, this was not in, and I will send it to Janet, but, and again, you know, I'm kind of a tweener. I'm not born here, you know, with long family history, but, you know, I'm not a summer person, you know, so I'm really looking at it from, you know, what I listen to people. And so one is, from what I hear is really the residents' quality of life and livelihoods. Life and livelihoods, meaning, you know, I have in this, and you'll see it, raising or rising ferry costs impacting food, fuel. And how does that affect family livelihoods? The ability to stay on the island, the ability to have a home, you know, all of that, you know, general increase. It's not only quality of life, but can we have a life on the island? Meaning, do I have a job? So that encompasses a lot, but I thought that seems to be like one of the, if not the primary one. I listed it number 1. And I have 4 of these. The second one I took straight out of here was the functioning of town government for the benefit of all residents. And that's kind of a standard, but are we listening? Are we doing what the community wants? And if we are we focused on the right things? Are we, you know, so forth. So that's something that was out of the previous one. If you want to look at it, you can. Then the third is clearly the island's physical, you know, the ecosystem of the island, meaning raising the water, you know, levels. And I said ecosystem, resources, and infrastructure. Those 3 things. It's, you know, the things we can control, you know, and can't control, the resources that we have to put against those things, and the infrastructure that we have to put against those things. I mean, the minor things are, like when Jordy's in here, we could use another piece of equipment, you know, for cutting trees back, versus the idea of how are we going to bypass the narrows in the future. All of that is incorporated in my thinking in ecosystem, resources, infrastructure. And that's pretty much an idea that was out of here. And then the last one is strictly is what new activities for the future that we should be thinking about from a visionary standpoint. You know, what do we want the island continue to be? Are we fulfilling our mission to ensure that we're listening to ideas, we're incorporating them in our discussions? You know, we take a lot of them in and ferret most of them out, but 1 or 2 good ones, and, you know, and should we be bringing those onto this list then? So it's 4 things: quality of life, livelihoods, town government functionality, the island infrastructure and everything associated, and a real vision kind of looking forward. So my question is, before I think we as a group wanna determine are these good for the year? I mean, it's strictly my input, so I don't want it to be me. Or should we be adding some of this back in? Did I miss something? You know, because once we have what we really wanna focus on, then it's easy to write to that, present that, and then, bring it to the community for approval. But I don't wanna spend time on these 4 things if, in fact, I missed something or we don't agree. That's what, I do have a couple of those things, so I can. And about
So my take is that these are good as general buckets. I think the
devils in the details.
right, the devil's in the details, and I don't think that there should be. Like, I don't, we don't wanna get 15 details under each of these things. We wanna agree on like the top 2 or 3 are, the actionable items and projects that we
Yep.
see moving forward over, the next 3 to 5 years. Maybe 1 to 5 years, hopefully.
Well, I guess one thing is it okay not to put? I mean, it's 7 pages today, that's a lot. And it's okay, 7 pages is fine if it's below what we want.
I would argue that it's worth reviewing what's in here currently, and I would be happy to think about slimming it down. In the past, though, we have had citizens come to us, to point details out that say it's in our looking ahead plan that we're gonna do this. So I would be hesitant to remove any major detail that's in here, just because I wouldn't want it to be perceived as us, like, removing it from the plan. If this is one of the few documents that people in town really do look at, it's good for us to streamline it, good for us to have a more, year by year oriented direction. But I would just be personally hesitant to, start removing the history of it just for the sake of shortening the document. But streamlining, yes,
Well,
moving.
and I think that's good. The first one, really focuses on the relationship between year-round residents and summer residents and how we work harmoniously together. To me, that was one I thought, okay, that's good, but do we really need that in this document? So that was one, and so that's why I love the input.
Yeah.
Cause we're not saying we don't wanna work with them, it's just, is that one of the things that looking forward is critical?
I don't know if critical would be the word, but I would support having the context there. That it might not be a bad idea to perhaps slim it down from the 1.5 to 2 pages that section seems to be. But I don't think it's a horrible idea to have just a little blurb in there about the historical.
Yeah, I would say it is, I think it's one of those things that is nice to say out loud, because I think it's part of what makes Islesboro unique, and making sure that it is recognized as a stated goal that we are trying to communicate with the year-round and the seasonal communities, and that relationship is important to us, I think is nice to state.
That's why,
But like we don't need the list of initiatives that takes up.
right,
So
okay, no,
that would be my happy compromise. with
it's
you.
good, no, it's good input. Good input.
Some of the stuff is like already come and gone, right? A health center endowment fund.
Yeah.
That exists. We could probably remove the establishment of the health center endowment fund. Enhancement of emergency services, establishment of municipally owned broadband service. We're there.
Yeah, I think a lot of it is celebrating our accomplishments.
Oh,
It's too
exactly,
much of
yeah.
celebrating our
I see.
accomplishments and not enough about looking forward to what the next.
That was misreading that last sentence here. Some others could be listed.
Yeah.
listed, which I thought kind of chuckle out of.
And this came out of the comprehensive plan.
Yeah,
I think, back and I didn't realize it was that far back because every 10 years we're supposed to do a comprehensive plan. I think we were trying to get out of doing a full comprehensive plan. And this is what came out of it from all those meetings, so it's kind of it's got a lot of history in it. I mean, but things can certainly, yeah, like you say, plan for something, we just now say, we do have a broadband or we have a new health center, things that have happened. Update.
There may be some people that are new to the island that don't know some of these accomplishments. So I'm not sure. I don't have it in front of me, and I don't remember exactly if there's ways that we can recategorize, which I think is what you're trying to do, Steve, in part, and try to refocus the paper. But as Janet was saying, I think this was an attempt to have a vehicle for sharing what the town has accomplished and where it's going in the future, where, some of the things that we want to do in the future, like housing is a big issue, for instance. So maybe it just needs to have a lot more work on the narrative to redesign it, to make it refocused and make more sense. But I'm not sure we want to lose too much of the history because I'm not sure we have many vehicles for the public to see what's been accomplished. Just 2 cents worth.
No, that's good. I do think, that's why I was saying, maybe there should be a annual review of what has been achieved by all there's 29 committees. I mean, what the heck are we doing? Should that be a nice document that complements this document? But I like the idea of bringing more context, but not giving the detail. Maybe the detail goes in something that's complementary to this or something. I can certainly, that's why I wanted to come, because I want to make sure this is draft A. I expect to go to draft Q. So let me take this input and do a secondary one.
are you the italics? Were those your edits? I was
Well,
looking through this on the email, and there was a section that I found
no,
that was
No, I
all
think
written
those
in
were
red.
updates from last year.
that was like,
Okay,
that's what there was like, here's the thing, and then those are their comments.
that. That should be a good place to start if we're trying to, because they're pretty much just summarize each section.
Yeah,
Would be a good place to start, just looking at those, expanding on those minimal rate. Future Brattleboro built on continued cooperation and goodwill, its residents both year round and seasonal, with conscious fostering of dignity and worth of all. That sounds great, right? Do we need 3 paragraphs to say that? Maybe not.
right.
Maybe it gets the point across perfectly.
Okay.
That's where I would start.
Good.
I thought those were you, actually. I was confused, but that's how I would go.
No, that was too eloquent for me.
Clearly myself.
The only thing that's changed on this from last year is I put 2025 instead of 2024,
Right.
so. Just so we would have this to go by.
Are there any other questions, discussion from the select board? And then I see some hands raised. All right, let's start with Janice. Yep. Yep. All right, Janice, you first, then Peter, and then Scott.
Thank you. I'm on the Energy Committee, and I'm just wondering, is there a section in this document about energy? I mean, would you like input from the Energy Committee about that? Because, we've been like writing grants and doing things that have to do with moving us forward with clean energy. And if you want that in the document, I think the Energy Committee would be happy to participate in helping you with that.
I did solicit the Energy Committee for the top 2 or 3 items that you have focused on and the results of those. So whoever is.
Harriet, probably, did you send it to Harriet there?
Yeah, whoever's the email, so you could ask her, Harriet. Janice, because I've asked for input from everyone because.
Great, great. Well, I'll keep my nose out of it then. You're ahead of me, so thank you.
No.
Come to Harriet.
I have to look and see if she sent anything yet. I mean, I have received from quite a few.
Oh, my turn. Peter?
I think this is a great direction. I think the residents' quality of life and livelihoods needs to be specifically, as you've tried in the parentheses, but it's a longer list. What we're really talking about here fundamentally is the sustainability of life as we know it on this island. And to me, there are 4 critical ingredients before us right now that have to do with the ferry service, that have to do with affordable housing, that have to do with the sustainability of the school, and have to do with our capability to address the impact of rising sea levels and climate change. It seems to me those are fundamental issues that are confronting the sustainability of life as we know it on this island. And it seems to me we need to come right out and say that at the outset. And, you know, the experience we've had with the ferry is absolutely fundamental. It is enormously more complicated than the transportation commissioner said in this, but also addressable. We've had 4 or 5 raises in the cost of the ferry, and it's not satisfactory to the state. We need to address that problem. If we do not have affordable housing on this island, this question of addressing the cost of living here and our attractiveness to young families and children who would be going to the Islesboro Central School, fundamental. The school was up at over 100 students 4 years ago. It's down at 66. The history is absolutely clear. 1970, 215 islands off the coast of Maine had year-round populations. Now there are 13. That's the future we're looking at. And what are we doing about that? I wholly support the idea of the functioning town government. I hope to be part of it, but I think that is extraordinary. You all are doing a wonderful job, but the island's physical ecosystem and its impact on the change in its ecosystem is back up to number 1. That is fundamental to the quality of life here and its sustainability. If we can't get across the Narrows 4 or 5 times a year or more often as sea levels rise, that is the future. So the only thing I would just say about this, and I don't mean to make is into a protracted speech, I apologize, but it seems to me we need to focus looking forward on those critical issues that are going to make continued life on Islesboro possible.
Thank you. No, that's good, great. I took notes and I'm total agreement. I'm so.
I applaud your effort.
No, well, all I want to say is, this is not my document. This is our community's document. I'm only trying to get the core components in it. And I'll keep bringing it back. We can keep working on it. There's not a rush to get this done, but we do want it to represent what everybody feels is the key things, and I'll work to do that.
All right, Scott.
Excellent comments by everybody. First and foremost, Peter, I love your outline, the 5 critical things, and agree with those. I would just make the suggestion, Steve, on the infrastructure aspect. I think it needs to be broken down into different elements because there are certain things that are more futuristic that yet like sea level rise that obviously have to be addressed long term and in midterm even. But then there's also short term things that absolutely affect all of the people on the island and that have an immediate impact. Things like cutting back the roads, things like repairing the potholes and fixing and making sure that the DPW is funded to the level or staffed to the level where everyone can function, business and residents can function on a regular basis. So I would just suggest that you take a little bit more of a critical eye on the infrastructure side of the equation and maybe separate some of the key elements. Obviously, the ferry is a completely separate one, but just the infrastructure alone of our roads and parks and whatnot around the island are critical to the enjoyment of the community. There's a lot of work to do. You guys have done a phenomenal job. There's no question about that. But I think that the quality of living is not just about what needs to be done. It's also maintaining what has been done. And the town does a great job, primarily through a lot of volunteers and a lot of support from summer residents and our as well as tax revenue. But really good suggestions. I just would think that we may want. I know you don't want to get to the minutia, but I suggest that possibly we do it in a bullet point format where you can just highlight the key factors. And if it's like Peter outlined the 5, those are all great ones. Maybe there's a little bit more meat on the bone just to so people can do a quick read, because people will get lost in a 7-page document. They'll never get to the end of it, quite honestly. That's just my experience. And then, lastly, what I'll say is my experience in working on boards and boards of directors in the past with various companies. What we've always done is we may have had a list of 15 or 20 things that the company needed to do urgently in order to be at the top of its game. And typically what we would do is we would assess those 15 and 5 of them would be the most critical. And they would be the ones that would be addressed in any given year or possibly 2 years. Some would be longer term, some would be short term, but we always had the top 5. And we would accomplish those and check them off, much like you have done with the broadband and a lot of the other things that have accomplished on the island recently and in the not so distant past. But checking them off, so to speak, and then if something else hot comes up and slots in at number 2 or slots in at number 1, like the ferry service, great example, that can be then our plans can be adjusted both short and long term. But I think identifying those things, even at a little bit more of the minutia level, will help us plot a course and help keep the residents of the island aware of really the things that are going on. And getting the feedback from the island residents is critical here because there's a lot of great input. So I know long-winded, I apologize for that, but great work. I think there's a lot of good work that can be done on this as well going forward.
Thanks. Melissa?
I was just gonna point out that your annual report has all of the committees and all of their updates, so you don't need another separate in conclusion with
Okay.
this for it.
Okay.
That's one of the big things that takes up all of the room in here, is all of the 29
Committee.
committees.
Okay.
They all have their reports in here, and so we don't need another thing with them.
Oh, good.
Anything else on this topic?
When were we hoping to have it out by? Town meeting,
What, this?
you know?
I think there's a,
No, I mean, it'd be nice to have it done by the summer. I mean, I feel like it's slipped from a January document to like a May document
2
to a
weeks
June
ago.
document, so. I think it is one of those things that the intention is to make sure that it doesn't sit on a shelf and to look at it every year, so.
yeah,
That to me is more important than having a specific date that we stamp it.
Yeah.
Although in an ideal world, we're looking at this kind of ahead of the budget workshops, so that we kind of agree on what the big picture issues are, and then our budget reflects what those big picture issues are. All right, anything else? All right, no new business, no other business. Let's approve warrant number 23. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second. All in favor, Lauren,
Aye.
Melissa?
Hi.
Aye.
Steve, Jay, aye. Excellent. We also have two appointments tonight, one from Vermont and one for Larry Hoder for the Economic Sustainability Corporation. Do I have a motion for those two appointments?
So moved.
The gray clipboard's from Melissa. But you haven't been writing them.
I hear Lauren has made that motion. Is there a second?
Sorry.
Is there any discussion? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor, Lauren,
Aye.
Melissa? Aye. Steve?
Aye.
Pete?
Have to abstain. I received money from them.
Okay. And Shay is an aye. Thank you for keeping it real. All right. And I have no further comments this evening. Lauren,
No comment.
Melissa, Steve,
Yeah. Did
Pete.
you do the appointments? I'm sorry.
Yep,
So
it's
just-
going around right now.
Okay,
Did you sign both of them?
Oh, no,
nope. There's two, yeah.
mean like that again.
Good luck to the kids tomorrow night. Their concert sounds like it's gonna, it's got sea shanty this year, so I haven't put headphones on yet, which is a step in the right direction.
Okay. And the junior class auction is Friday night. Come down, sounds like have a burger.
I can't support. I
I say, come down and have a burger and, support the junior class.
appreciate it.
Oh, wait, what's Friday? I thought the auction was Saturday.
No, Saturday.
You said Friday night.
Oh, no, Saturday night at 4:30, Saturday
Am I
night.
signing anything or just passing?
No, you're just passing. All right, motion to adjourn. So moved. Excellent. All those in favor? Aye.
Whoops.
Thank you all.
Thanks, Shay. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Good job.